Good morning, everybody. Just so you know, this press conference has three objectives. First, Chief Troy Bankert will review the facts from yesterday. Second, the mayor will deliver some statements. And then third, we'll open it up to any questions that you guys may have. So, Chief Bankert.
Yesterday, April 24th, at approximately 10:30 in the morning, the New York City Police Department received a shots fired call at Park Place and Park Street. Upon arrival, they had found Walter Jenkins, who was shot at least once into the head. He was police officers rendered aid to Walter, and he was transported to York Hospital. He underwent surgery, and our last update on his condition is that he is in stable condition at York Hospital. Later in the same day, approximately 5:05 in the afternoon, we received another shots fired 911 call that we responded to outside of 127 East Maple Street. Upon arrival, officers discovered Nyleek Moore, 18 years old, from York, who was shot at least once in the chest, rendered aid, and transported to York Hospital, where he later passed away. A second victim was discovered at York Hospital, who was transported to the hospital through a privately owned vehicle, and he was shot once in the arm, and his last updated condition is stable and remains at York Hospital. We have one person that we are looking to speak with at this point. It's Shawnquay Ritter. He is a person that we would like to question in reference to the shooting on Maple Street. Mayor?
Thank you, Chief. I spent much of yesterday morning going around the neighborhood at Park Place and Park Street and talking to the residents where they had either just witnessed or been in the vicinity of seeing of a man being shot in the head and being in critical condition. Tried to walk around and just listen to them and try to comfort them as I could. Then last night, I spent most of the rest of my evening walking around the East Maple Street neighborhood where a young man had just been laying dead. So while out there, I was talking with grandmothers and grandfathers and brothers and sisters and moms and even former gang members that were out there. And none of them want this violence. Nobody wants this violence. Nobody that we can find wants this. There's not one person. I know that residents don't always see immediate responses or the work that is going on to try to reduce this violence, but I can tell you as a new person behind the scenes, I'm in awe of all of the work and all of the coordination and cooperation, not only with our York City Police Department, but we're working with the District Attorney's Office, York County Probation, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. Marshals Service, DEA, ATF, and all of our municipal partners. While the intense work of our police work and all of our partners will be evident, over the next 6 months, the residents of the City of York will also see great increases in the number of resources provided into our neighborhoods. These resources will help our young people, hopefully, get on a better track. But back to those that are causing this violence in our community. If you are out there and hearing this and are continuing to think that this is a place that you can shoot up and put innocent lives at risk, you are wrong, and you have been warned that the team that I mentioned is coming for you. Some may have heard our slogan for the Group Violence Initiative saying shooting brings police and guns bring police. I know that our police were out last night and this morning also doing group violence initiative work in those neighborhoods. But we just want everybody to realize that it's not just the York City Police that are out there. It's all of our partners. The marshals, U.S. attorneys, DEA, ATF, they're all working together, probation. And violence has no place in our town, and we're not going to stand for it. Overall, I want people to know that when we say something is a GVI incident, what we really mean is that the totality of the circumstances point to some kind of group and or gang violence or involvement. So I know that word has been thrown around, but I can't really go into more details on that because what we say here at this podium, believe it or not, can have an effect on a case down the road. But I just wanted you to understand that when we say things are group violence, it means that when we look at it, we see some links to other activities. Thank you. We're open for any questions.
Is this a gang? Is this two city groups or gangs? I know you don't like to call them gangs at this point, but groups, neighborhood groups, going back and forth. One shoots one, then the other shoots the other. Are these shootings related? And if so, how many of them are related?
I'm not able to tell you at this point. It's still part of the investigation.
Do you know that
I
answer?
have some answers to your questions, but I'm not able to share it to you at this,
So you
this
know the
point.
answer, you just can't talk about it.
It's part of the investigation. It would compromise the
What can you
investigation. I can tell you that it's a GVI triggered incident. That's about it.
Which one? Oh,
Both.
I mean,
Both.
from yesterday. And
Yeah.
so have all the others.
No, not every shooting is a group related incident.
Are the other shootings that Shankwai Ritter was previously wanted for questioning for also then part of these group violence situations?
I don't know offhand. I'd have to go back and check that. What's that?
That was the Jameer Cherry case.
From last year. Yeah, I don't remember the specifics of that one to be able to answer that question.
Was he ever questioned in that case?
I don't remember.
Chief, one of the.
Just to be clear, you were not, I'm sorry, just to be clear, you were not a detective working on that case at the time, correct?
No, I was a Detective Bureau commander, and I just don't. I remember the homicide of Jameer, but I do not remember the specifics of who was questioned in that specific homicide.
Chief, is there anything that you can say at this point that would indicate, at least initially or beyond that, that last night's homicide is retaliatory to the earlier shooting that you had?
I understand that you want some specifics of the circumstances, Ed, and I appreciate your position there. We know some information. We have confirmed even less. And I think I've spoken with most of you at one point or another, and that if I cannot confirm some of that information, I do not give it out because it's speculation, and that's unfair to both you and me. It's a pretty common statement I give, to the media, and that's what I'm going to give to you now. I do have some information. Many of that I cannot confirm. It's not fair to you, to me, or the investigation to share it with you at this time because I cannot confirm a lot of it.
Are you getting, what level of cooperation are you getting from folks in these two neighborhoods?
Very little.
Can we talk about that? Your level of frustration, that you're not getting much out?
Right. The witnesses that we get typically are, or the lack of witnesses that we get, we understand why, because they're scared of the retaliation as well. The issue is that it makes it very difficult then to investigate the actual crime and who had committed that crime. This is not unusual with city-related violence and gun violence. Other cities, big and small, have the same issues because they're just as scared as well. What I have been trying to push in some of my talks in the last couple of months is that we need the police department alone cannot completely, we need the participation of residents. And we need that participation. We typically do not get it. We do understand why they don't, because they're scared for their own safety, because they live in that neighborhood. Eventually, as time goes on, they tend to give us some information. What we try to stress too is that not every piece of information you may have about it is necessary for you to come in to testify. We have several methods for you to give anonymous information. Any information that you do give to us, we have to vet, we have to confirm, just like I told you, Ed. I don't give you anything that's not confirmed. We don't act on probable cause information just because you said it. We confirm that information, but even a phone call, using 411, giving us an email, not your name, anonymous, it leads us to one way or another, leads us in a direction of the investigation that we can take. As we see about 2 or 3 days after these incidents, some of them do start to filter in. The initial response, in my experience, is that we get sometimes literally nothing.
Could you comment on the level of the resources that the police department have dedicated to this in terms of the number of officers, the number of hours that you are already utilizing, and what do you plan to do?
Well, we have a shooting. The responses from the Detective Bureau, I don't know what you're exactly asking me for, Ed. I don't know the number of hours. I know the entire Detective Bureau was in yesterday. I was in until 11 o'clock last night. We had officers in until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, following up on pieces of evidence that we had. They're all day today. All of the detectives will be working on that. We have our neighborhood units. We're working on that. We had our partners working with us yesterday on several details that we had scheduled after the initial shooting on Park Place and Park Street. So they were already activated. Yesterday total, if you want me to give you a number of officers or total law enforcement that was participatory in the investigation and response to the Park Street and the East Maple Street, you're talking about probably 40 to 50 police officers.
Chief, if I could zero in, if you don't mind, regarding the homicide last evening shortly after 5 o'clock, the young man, Mr. Moore, was he just standing, if you can help us with this, was he just standing out there out in front of number 127 East Maple Street, and he was shot by somebody who walked up to him, or shot by somebody in a car? Can you give us some indication of what happened there in the moments leading up to him being shot?
I'm not able to give you that.
Hey,
That's still
you can't say
that's
whether it was
still
a drive-by or not?
that's still part of the investigation.
Chief, there was a fight at the
Correct, I'm telling you.
hospital, about 7 p.m. Just wondering if that, and I understand that the hospital was on lockdown after the shooting victim, the shooting victim who eventually passed away. The hospital was on lockdown because of that, but about 7 p.m. there was a fight. Is that fight in any way connected with any of the shootings that occurred yesterday?
Yes.
In what way?
How so?
Well, they were a lot of the folks that were up at the hospital during that fight were somehow connected to one or both victims. We're not exactly sure. That incident is still also under investigation.
So
Would
if
you
the
say to
hospital was on
people-
lockdown, how could that have occurred? Because I think in the lockdown, don't you have to push everybody out who's not, like, say, a victim? If you're not suffering from anything, you should be outside of the hospital, I think. Isn't that how the lockdown works?
But during a lockdown, yeah, they remove everybody who is not a patient, yes.
So if the shooting happened on Maple, happened around 5:05, and this happened after that,
Mhm.
how could all of those people be still in the emergency department?
I don't get your question.
Okay, so in a lockdown.
Yeah.
Anyone who's not a patient has to be outside.
Correct.
Has to be removed from the hospital, but if this occurred after.
The lockdown wasn't first. The lockdown was in response to disorderly behavior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a lockdown. Okay, you're thinking that the lockdown was made as soon as the shot, as soon as the occurred.
Protocol, that's what they explained to me. The protocol is, hey.
I don't know if they did it initially. Sometimes that is their protocol, and I'm not completely familiar with that. You're going to have to get a hold of them as far as their specific policy.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, Ted, because years past, and whenever there was a shooting, it didn't matter what happened, they would put it in lockdown, right? I'm talking about at the time of the fight that was out there, it was not in lockdown, so they put it in lockdown. I know what I get your saying.
People out there who fear for their lives because these shootings keep on happening.
What would I say, what?
What would you say to people in these communities who might fear for their lives or fear for retaliation?
Well, we just from our response, that's all we really can do. And we encourage those who know information and give us information so that we can get those who are shooting and those who may be part of a retaliatory effort to get them off of the street and make those arrests. So we need that participation. That's what I would tell them.
Oh, let me follow. Hold on. Let me follow up on that for a second. What I would say is that you can, if you're really concerned right now, you can call our office. You can call the mayor's office, and we were going out door to door meeting with the residents last night. We were meeting with the family last night after 10 o'clock over on East Maple Street. If anybody has concerns, they can come to us directly. The police force is part of this equation, but we're here too. They've got their work to do. Sometimes their work is methodical and looks even cold because they've got a lot of stuff, a lot of processes that they have to work through. But we're the other side of this too. So you can tell folks to contact us directly.
Mayor,
And
what did
Mayor,
you tell the family?
what are your emotions that this
I told the family to come and meet with me today at 1:30 at my office.
And what will you tell them?
We're not sure what all we're going to discuss yet.
How did it
So-
affect you personally? Obviously there's been 5 shootings over the last 2 weeks. You now have 3 homicides in the city. I think that's right, since the beginning of the year.
Yes.
How are you dealing with this personally?
Well, I consider York City my family, so I'm feeling, I won't say as bad, but I'm feeling the loss. And, just trying to figure out anything that I can do personally. I know that sometimes, to the concern of my police department, I'm out there also trying to find out what's going on, and I have my own contacts that I'm talking with, and I work with the police chief and the detectives, because this isn't just their job. It's all of us, including me. It's my job to find out what's going on so we can put a stop to this.
I have a question for Chief. Are you able to do anything more to ensure that any of these people that you're looking for questioning come in? Can you put out a warrant for Ritter or anybody?
There is no warrant. We do not have any type of probable cause at this point for Sean Quay. We want him for questioning in response to the shooting on Maple Street, correct?
Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can do.
I can't compel him to come in, correct. That's what you're asking, right? I can't compel him to come in. We'd like him to come in, we'd like to get some information from him about it.
What kind of toll did this take on the force yesterday, having these 3 incidents?
It exhausts us. It completely exhausts us. All the 911 calls, we had to prioritize them as it is because the officers go to call. So then when we have an emergency, we have to perform a form of triage. Well, what's the most important thing at the time? So we called officers in early because it was at 5 o'clock. We called the officers that were coming in later in the evening a little bit early, so we have that relief. The officers we still have 911 calls that come in. We still have to respond to those. So then the shift supervisor, we separate those duties. There's a shift supervisor, then takes the street calls, and they have to triage those calls because now they have less officers to go out and respond to the 911 calls. The work doesn't stop. The 911 calls don't stop just because someone got shot. So we still have to maintain that service. And that service is hurt because there's less officers to go out and do it. So there's more time where if you have something stolen, you're going to wait a little bit longer because the triage is based upon the dangerousness of the call.
I'm sorry, I also want to get a message across there for the people out there to understand that, and I hope and I understand the difficulties in our community and who we trust and stuff, but if people are protecting people that are shooting in our city, this is one of the effects on all of us, that all of our resources get sucked away from everything that we're trying to do, and things that we do need to respond to. I guess it's kind of obvious, but I'm still at that point where how can anybody be sheltering or hiding information when they know how much it harms the entire community? It's not one death, it's not one family's suffering, it's everybody. So I just want to, request, beg, again, any information, please get it to our police department. What are all the accesses to get to you?
It's the 411 tips line.
411 tips line. You can call 911 if you have to. 846-1234. You can contact mayor's office at yorkcity.org. Please just get us information so that we can reduce this chaos in our community. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Troy, you said that the fight at York Hospital was apparently people connected to
Sorry,
the
Liz.
victims of what?
Sorry, Liz.
People have the community wants to know this stuff.
Let me address this one more time. We are having press conferences so that you can know more and get more information than you have gotten in the past. We cannot discuss ongoing investigations. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll update you as we have updates. Thank you.